What's up, guys? Sub-Zero here, back for another VOD review. Today, we got a player that I'm really excited to review. This is Kahdei. So if you guys aren't familiar, let me bring over the LOL chest real quick. Rank 1 OC, 1900 LP. And the thing that's actually hilarious is I went to record some of Kahdei's games with this new VOD recorder tool. And the 3 that I recorded were a 1-1-1. So spoilers for this game that it is a first, but I mean, look, you guys say you don't like the high roll games, but I know you guys like the high roll games. But yeah, I mean, Kahdei just I mean, a fantastic lol chess, 1900 LP, average across the entire set 3.5. I mean, that's disgusting. Almost a 70% top 4 rate, almost a 24% win rate. 800 games as well. You know, a lot of games. Usually when you play a lot of games, you trend closer to average scoreline because, you know, you're playing a lot of games, but not the case here. And, you know, a really solid last 20, 0 eighths in there. And I mean, the firsts are crazy. So let's check out this game from Kahdei. The other thing that I was really excited about, why I wanted to check out this game specifically, is that it's a game on a comp that I think a lot of people are insanely low on. This is not a comp that I think a lot of people are interested in playing. And I mean, I see this opener here. I think a lot of people would say, I mean, I got a Lux pair, I got a Zyra pair, I'm gonna force Orcs from this spot. You know, spoilers, but that's not what Kahdei ends up going for this game. Even though we have a great opener for it, which is really cool to see. Let me skip through those two. There's no way that 2 seconds of in the background a copyrighted song would. It's so annoying. All right, but that is Zyra to Lux too, so that's really good. Okay, so let's start off here. We have like the Shojin Slam. I mean, you could easily see this being a Sorks game, right? We have Shojin open, we have the double anvils. This can be Guardbreaker, this can be JG. I mean, it's a fantastic spot to play Sorks from. Pyromaniac's a pretty reasonable option just to guarantee your heal cut here. Go Shojin, Guardbreaker, Pyromaniac. Boom, you got your heal cut mid. You got a triple item unit, and you're fantastic. Obviously, it's not gonna be Fracture Crystals. Mentorship, you know, is another decent option, but you know, not as good as something like Pyromaniac. I think in this spot, Replication also seems pretty weak here. I mean, you know, 2-trick also. I don't love the idea of this. I don't know. I would just go Pyro here. And yeah, we get an Egregious from Kahdei in this spot here. Also pick up the Darius too, so I will not say that this opener is not good. Picks up the Rod here because that is the only thing that we can make out of the glove. And I mean, I imagine it's gonna be the only thing here is, yeah, you could end up making Onyx Spark here. Yeah, I think this is beautiful, slams wise, because you could make JG here. And I mean, if you want to make maybe the best slam for your value here, like if you want to make your board the strongest right now, you actually maybe would make JG, just because getting a triple item carry is way better than, you know, getting 2 items on 1 unit, 1 item on Darius. But the nice thing about this slam is that it allows us to split our components. We now have, you know, basically like 5 backline components and then like 2 frontline components because we made a frontline item. And that stuff is actually like quite important. You know, imagine we go into something like Krugs and we get a bunch of more backline components. We're going to be really happy that we made a frontline item in the Spark, and so we're not like forced to have a million frontline items. So it's actually pretty it's a good idea to end up making something like to balance out frontline and backline items. This is one of those things where you know, as I do more coaching, I notice a lot of people, you know, really don't think about this. They'll just build, you know, their 7th offensive item instead of building like their 2nd or 3rd defensive item, and you know, balancing this stuff out is quite important. While we're sitting on this board, why don't we hop around and see some other stuff. So definitely we have someone angling Source from here. This guy certainly has to play Visionaries here. This guy here could really play anything but has AD type items. This guy here, oh, Cluttered Mine. Also, I mean, maybe angling some kind of Academy setup there. Let's go back to Kahdei for this fight, but we are kind of stomping it here. Let's check out this. Oh, this guy as well, Sork Sentinels here. You can kind of see why, perhaps, and we'll check the last couple of people later. Let's go back to Kahdei here. So we have the JG Slam possible. I mean, I do love the idea of picking up a Vladimir with a Rod here. There was that Nami with Glove, but no longer. I mean, I would be interested in certainly the Vlad with Rod, and now that we can't get that, yeah, I mean, 3-cost Cloak here. Once again, it does spread our components pretty nicely. So yeah, okay, let's check out these last couple of players real quick. Ooh, Sniper's Nest. Woke with Shojin Slam. I don't know what I'm interested with this Killeen player is going to end up playing, and then this guy's Enforcer +1. Okay, so we see a lot of people in this lobby angling Sorks, and I don't think this is an uncommon setup in a game of TFT in, you know, current patch, current year. Is Sorks, I think, has just kind of shown itself as the kind of like dominant AP line. It's just the line that, you know, everyone is interested in playing for when you have an AP setup. And so that means you oftentimes have lobbies like this where there's a ton of people angling for it. And the other piece of it that is kind of awkward is that it's not the only line that plays some of the units that you care about. You know, you have stuff like a Rebel comp that also ends up wanting to hold Zoe as well. So it's very easy to say, I want to play Sorks, I have a great Sorks opener, but then end up, you know, triple contested in Zoe's and not end up hitting. This is actually something like I played a game the other day, and like say what you, I don't know. I have not played enough games this set. It's so tragic, but I mean, next set I gotta grind for it because I mean that's the set that, yeah, I mean I gotta get good rank next set because you know it plays for like the Paris Open and stuff like that. And I want to go to Paris and I want to compete at Paris. But I guess what I want to say is that I was playing Sorks the other day, and I ended up in this exact scenario where, like, I had a fantastic opener for Sorks, and I stubbornly was like, well, if I have a great opener, I can play Sorks. And then, you know, mid-game, I scout around the lobby, and I'm like, oh, this guy's playing Rebels, and this guy's playing Sorks, and I'm disgustingly contested. But then I was like, well, maybe it'll be fine as long as I like roll aggressively early. Like maybe I'll hit, and I never hit Zoe 2, and I went like, you know, 5th that game or something like that. And I mean that's just the path that you go down. Even if you have a fantastic start, if you're playing such a contested comp as you run the risk of, well, if you roll down and you miss, or if you don't have infinite gold, then you know you just put yourself into a really tough spot. And so we will see what Kahdei does about that in this spot here. But yeah, our item's pretty straightforward. We do end up making JG, and you actually did end up in a similar spot. Well, we'll talk about it after Augment. Betrayal, Bronze for Life, Little Buddies. On such a win streak, I would not want to take Little Buddies. I mean, I do think generically it's a pretty strong augment depending on what comp you want to play for, but the problem is we're on such a big win streak, I would love to take something that's not Little Buddies here, but we'll see. The other options don't look that juicy to me either, so I'm actually curious what we're going to take here. I mean, Piercing Lotus, we already have the Shred, and we already have JG made, so I don't love that. And Clockwork Accelerator, I think, is perfectly serviceable in a spot like this. Maybe support, yeah, I like Clockwork Accelerator here. I think this makes a lot of sense. And maybe it gives ideas of what comp we're playing towards. I won't spoil anything exactly. I know some people don't like when I spoil, but then, I mean, some people do. I mean, if you like what I spoil, I always put in the description because people complained about it a long time ago. They said, you're clickbaiting me. And I said, I mean, yes, but I mean, that's the game. We're all playing it. I'm making YouTube videos. I got to clickbait a little bit. I mean, I won't say that I don't clickbait a little bit, but I mean, it's always like at least mostly true. I never like lie to you in the titles. So I'll say I'm like at least like 95% ethical. But I guess the other piece that I want to talk about is, remember, we made this spark instead of making something like a JG. This actually turned out to be really, really good because we ended up getting tier plus rod. Tier plus rod plus sword on the Krugs. And so we ended up in this spot here where we did actually end up having to slam a 4th damage item in this spot. Imagine had we made that JG, we would have 0 tank items at this point, and we actually ended up taking that cloak off Carousel, which I'm actually curious, had we had the option to pick up the rod, I think we would have picked it up, but that actually would have put us down a route to having even more damage items, but I guess we would still have a rod that can end up going towards a Crown Guard or something like that. But now we're in the spot here where, you know, as long as we get a tank item off Carousel here, we end up with 2 tank items, which, you know, is a pretty good spot to be in. A lot of our juicy tank items are getting taken away, but I mean, there's still a Gargoyles that we can end up taking here, and that's what Kahdei ends up grabbing here. I mean, I think it's almost mandatory to slam in a spot like this when you are, you know, here. We pick up the Blitzcrank here, we pick up the Silco in shop, and I guess this is certainly around where I think Kahdei, you know, I don't know if this was always an idea in Kahdei's mind, or if it starts to appear now that we have this Blitzcrank, that we have this Cassiopeia that we held on to, we have this Silco, but we start thinking about this idea of like maybe this is actually a game where we can play around Dominators. And there's a few really, really nice reasons, like a few really, really nice things about the Dominator line. Also, I just realized I'm pretty sure I have this. Yeah, that's my team planner. Sorry. Let me take that out of team planner. Sorry if that tilted you guys throughout the earlier VOD. I just realized now that was my team planner. But hey, at least I can turn that off now as opposed to having like a full recording of that happening. But yeah, that's the other. That's the idea, is that we can play towards this comp, but there's actually a lot of reasons why Dominators make sense from this spot. And I know people are really low on Dominators right now. And I'm really honestly curious to see how Kahdei makes this work. We actually lose our 100 streak here, which is so tragic. But I mean, what are you going to do? I do think we played a very solid board. And it's just, you know, at the end of the day, that's how the cookie crumbles. But yeah, people are really low on Dominators. Most people are just like not even interested at all in playing this comp. And I mean, for pretty good reason. But Kahdei actually, yeah, I mean, he feels the Silco on the board. His idea is, and I mean, the second we start rolling down, I'm actually down to pause and bring it down to 1x speed for the roll down, because I think that's really interesting. We do also end up getting tank items here, so it balances out perfectly, but it balances itself out because we played so nicely around it earlier, because we made a conscious choice to balance our frontline and backline items out as best we could. Now we end up with triple frontline items, and then, you know, triple backline items plus some extras. Like, it's beautiful here. Okay, once we let's do augment here, and then I can talk about kind of like why this comp might actually make sense. These look really gross though. I mean, maybe if we go Kahdei Chaos. Honestly, I'll bring it down to 1x speed regardless, because we're probably going to do a roll down right here. I mean, once again, Piercing Lotus. I mean, Blazing Soul. Ooh, we actually will call for Chaos here. What do we get? 40 refreshes. Okay, so we got to roll here. I'll bring it down to 1x speed. There is the Silco 2 already, so that's really good. Oh, that is also a Mordekaiser. So this is going to be certainly the high roll scenario for Dominators. But I mean, we have a lot of refreshes. We were always going to hit a quite good version of the board. Now, am I going to say that we were always going to guarantee all this stuff? No, not necessarily, but this is really good. Ooh. I mean, is this the call? I mean, we have the Blitzcrank 2. We have so much good stuff here. I think this might be, this is a bit of a crazy idea. I mean, this is a very crazy idea from Kahdei, but oh, what the heck? Well, I can't control the VOD anymore. My thingy that allows me to control the VOD just disappeared. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but the VOD's still playing out, so I think it's fine, but I won't be able to like pause anymore, but that's fine. I mean, for the rest of the game, we can just go through on 2x speed. Maybe it's because I was messing around with it too much. I don't know. I'll reach out to the dude who's developing it. But I mean, the crazy thing about this spot is we have 34 refreshes. We took a Prismatic Augment. This Prismatic Augment said you gain 6 rerolls, basically. And the rest of our Prismatic Augment is just sitting here. But I mean, Kahdei makes a call, and I think it's a very reasonable call here. We have the Mordekaiser. That is one of the biggest stabilizers for this comp, is hitting Mordekaiser. He's so much damage and just so much everything on this board. We have the Silco too, and we have enough frontline. We don't have a 2-star 4 cost, but we have the 2-star Swain that Kahdei very intelligently ended up playing on this board. We have the 2-star Blitzcrank. Like, it works beautifully here. So this is actually going to be a fast 9, and then we can use all those refreshes on 9 to really put ourselves into a fantastic spot. So yeah, I think this makes perfect sense. I'm a little bit surprised at the glove take there. I was just gonna look at bow and just make like a GS and live with it, but or actually, honestly, it could just be bow and then just chill, right? It could just be bow and chill, and like wait for something like a Nashor's. Maybe he takes the glove for a similar idea, because we want to make like Hodge, we want to make like QSS, really good items on the Mordekaiser. Makes sense. But yeah, I mean, the board is good enough to push 9. It's crazy when you have 34 refreshes, and once again, like you know, I think it's actually been really nice, because when you watch really like the best TFT players play every single day, you start to take things for granted. And then it's been really nice to do more coaching recently. And then like I guess I won't be able to pause for this, which is kind of rough, but I mean, we'll see. We can look. Wow, it takes nothing wasted immediately here. Oh, okay. I mean, you know, it's a solid option on units that, you know, care about casting a lot. I know this augment's been nerfed a lot, so I think a lot of people are not that in love with it, but okay. So Kahdei certainly thinks it's good enough here, and also probably doesn't want to like overroll in a spot like this, because he knows we want to go 9. We want to play for stuff like the Mordekaiser too, want to get, you know, good 5 costs onto our board, want to find stuff like LeBlanc as well. So like we don't really want to be, you know, wasting too much gold here. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, it's that like, in like coaching a lot of people, I get that exposure to like how the kind of like average TFT players plays, and like a lot of things like this, I think, you know, like I can imagine so many people rolling way deeper here in this spot. I can imagine a lot of fantastic TFT players, actually like challenger TFT players, being like, well, I have to get value out of my rerolls here. I'll roll down for like Garen 2 plus Elise 2 in a spot like this. But why should we? I mean, look what happened this stage. We lost 2 fights, which were like pretty good losses. We also win streaked so hard early that we're still still at 58 HP. And now we can look at the potential level 9 here in a fantastic spot. We make Edge of Night, and this is Edge of Night QSS here. Yep, we get the double slams onto Mordekaiser here. And I mean, yeah, our slams end up being fantastic here. Great call, actually. Kahdei, you know, I was thinking about the bow take for the Mordekaiser, but this Edge of Night QSS slam ends up being like beautiful for the Mordekaiser. I mean, you need attack speed on Mordekaiser. That's what I was thinking about for the bow, but I mean, QSS fills in that exact same idea, but then you also have the Edge of Night for a bit of survivability. And yeah, we're losing some fights right now, but I mean, that's because we're playing down a Prismatic right now. So yeah, we're going to level at this point. Now we're going to start using a lot of those refreshes. Pick up a Victor as well. There's Garen 2. There's a Silco 2. I mean, we have 25 refreshes left, and we have 6 Silcos. You can start to see that there are definitely some ideas here of Silco 3, and the fantastic thing about, Silco 3 is that who in their right mind is playing the Silco unit, right? It is the most uncontested forecast of all time, this patch. Actually, I want to go look at the stats, actually, just to see, back me up on that, Mort Dog. And yes, play rate, he has lower play rate than... he's the 4th lowest play rate in the entire game. There's the Mel, who we can also now fit onto this board, just doing a great job of making sure that we fit these 6 costs on our board. Who cares about stuff like the Conquer? Yeah, dropping triple trait here, Conk, Form Swapper, and Sork here. But these are all pretty irrelevant traits when you think about just the value that Mel brings onto this board. So a really, really smart call there as well. Also the idea that, like, we can get that extra life, which, means something as well, especially when we're digging for 3 stars. I wonder when Kahdei is going to start, like, digging here, because the later you wait because Kahdei could obviously wait until 6-1, until 6-5, honestly, probably, to like really send it if he wanted to. But the problem with doing that is you do lose a lot of the forecasts that are in the pool. All these other people who have forecasts in the pool are helping dilute it, which is really, really nice for us. This looks a bit strange to me, I will say, but okay, this is the setup here. Double item Mel, double item. I mean, the Shojin plus Nashers is mandatory onto the Silco here. I'm just quite surprised that our Mel has, I mean, the Mel kind of has to hold the red buff here, and then the Mel outdamaged the Silco here. I mean, you can see why we ended up fielding the Mel here. But yeah, I mean, this player just ended up, that looks, that actually looked hilarious. I guess we jumped there in the middle. But yeah, Kahdei's actually going to use all the rolls here because, he wants to make sure that there's as many players as live as possible. The fact that that player just died and that Sam is, potentially going to die soon. This is a person who's holding, a decent amount of forecasts as well. So yeah, I think this makes perfect sense to actually roll deep in a spot like this, even though it looks weird. Like, there's no urgency in terms of HP, but there is actually urgency in terms of the fact that, like, we're going to kill this guy here. And, that's a bunch of forecasts back in the pool, which is actually going to make it harder for us to hit. Also, these in Spectator mode, the cutscene's a little bit buggy. Maybe, honestly, the issue is probably that we're on 2x speed. That's honestly, like, probably the issue with all this kind of stuff, is that, like, on 2x speed, the game, like, freaks out a little bit, but I don't really know how to fix that other than, the game defaulting down to 1x speed during a cutscene, which, I mean, would be kind of cool, but sounds really hard to implement. All right, there's a Warwick as well, a lot of Mundos as well, and yeah, we actually open sell here just to make sure that we can roll deeper. Actually, yeah, sell the Warwick, because Kahdei realizes, like, how... We're fitting so many 6 costs on this board, but how actually are we going to fit all the rest of this stuff? And we ended up, yeah, selling the Garen here on this board to fit LeBlanc. And it's 4 Black Rose, it's Sork on this board, and LeBlanc is just a fantastic teamfight tactics unit in general here. And yeah, I mean, this is also a pretty front-to-back comp, so, like, the value of something like a Warwick I don't think is that high. But yeah, one off the Mundo 3, a lot of people dying here. Obviously pretty close to the Silco 3 as well. We're just begging for us to be able to get there. And I want to do a quick bench check. Yeah, both of these players, I mean, look at this. They're so low gold. They're rolling, right? These players are rolling to try to potentially deny from Kahdei. But, I mean, they're so broke that they just don't have the resources to deny Kahdei. I mean, your first responsibility in TFT is to maximize your own placement, and then you can think about stuff like making sure Kahdei doesn't go first. But, like, these players are really fighting to guarantee top 2 here. And the other, I mean, crazy thing, there's a Silco. Oh my god, one off of both. But the other crazy thing is, I mean, look at our board. We I mean, this is a level 9 Sork, not Sorks, Sorks, so common. This is a level 9 Dominators board. I mean, it's very capped, but it's stomping the lobby, and it just goes to show that, like, yes, this comp is weaker than, a standard comp. You know, if you just play the standard Sork board versus the standard this board without hitting everything, it is weaker. But like, why would you, like, Kahdei could have very easily locked himself into playing Sorks this game and just said, I'm gonna play Sorks because I have a good opener for it. And I fully, like, I would guarantee you that his placement would be worse than what he placed this game. So, you know, just cool to see Flex playing around this stuff ends up, you know, mattering and ends up being really helpful here. This is pretty tragic that we're actually one off both here. I wonder, I mean, there's no way. Like, I mean, this board that we're fighting is quite strong. So yeah, Kahdei is still just going to play his strongest board here. We have killed a lot of people here. This guy is 4 HP. But I mean, yeah, this board is actually pretty nuts. So we don't have to artificially make our board weak or anything like that. And that guy's still not holding any of either. Roll down again here. I mean, the upside is we're definitely not dying here, which means we're going to go into stage 7. And if we pop over this player, I'm pretty sure. Oh, man, they actually locked for Rumble too. I think this is actually like a bit of an int from this player. Like, why would you lock for Rumble 2 when you're winning these fights anyway? I mean, maybe he thinks that it's not guaranteed that he's going to win these fights. But I mean, it really looks like these fights are not that close. I mean, maybe he thinks it was a fight RNG thing. Yeah, this fight is not that close. So Kahdei's only win con is hitting these 3-star forecasts. So shouldn't then that player not lock for the Rumble and then just use that gold to roll and try to deny these units? I mean, I certainly think so. And then I actually also like to look at the other side. I mean, look how disgusting this board is. This guy also didn't end up playing Sorks either. 6 Sentinel, end up hitting 2-star 5 costs, both of the ones that matter. I mean, a disgustingly good board, great items as well. All right, a lot of gold here. Boom. Can't slow it down, but there is the Silco the third here. No Mundo 3, a bit sad, ends up grabbing Protector's Vow. But that is certainly going to be enough to beat Darren the Garen here, unless there is some kind of random 3-star forecast that ends up getting hit here. He actually did have a Mundo in his shop, so it's a bit of an anti-lucky wave there for Kahdei on hitting the Mundo, so that's actually pretty tough for him. But he did still end up getting the Silco, and that is going to be enough, certainly, to win the game. I would have brought it down to 1 XP to maybe hope they would fix that, but honestly, the bugged out version is pretty funny. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. I don't know, really cool video showing how, you know, flex play and playing around you know, the less contested comps. I mean, it has a lot of upside. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. Check my Twitch, all my other links down below. My Metafy I usually shout out now because I stream less than I coach. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks as always for watching. Goodbye.